It's not a secret, Rabotai, that we're going through a major tragedy, a major churban, and it's extremely important to the way my rabbeim, the way my rabbis taught me in yeshiva. It's very important that when such things happen, especially through the period of time that we're going through right now, it's extremely important not to be in denial. What does it mean not to be in denial? More than once already, I heard one or two people say after the tragedy happened, Rabbi, Gamzula Tova. Or another comment, oh, this is part of the procedure called Gog Magog. Or another comment, there were enemies Mechalel Shabbat. Very, very bad comments. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's why we have to set the record straight according to the Chachamim. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu puts us through such a situation that we're going through right now, you think it's easy for Hashem to let such a tragedy happen to Yudim? Obviously, the response and the message has to be drastic. It cannot be to just move along and call it part of the system called Gog Magog, or Chas Shalom, everything anyways happens for the best. That is not the response, even though everything is for the best. Retzon Hashem is not for a person to have that response. Absolutely not. In fact, the Rambam writes in Perek Aleph in TorahAnytime, and look it up, everybody loves the Rambam. The Rambam writes things very clearly in his halachot, very clearly. The Rambam writes, when there's a et tzara, when Klal Yisrael, when the Jews together are going through a tragedy together, there's a mitzvah taseh min Torah, lizok, to scream, and to blow the shofar, and he says, v'kachi min darkei teshuvah. This is the process of repenting of teshuvah. When a tragedy happens, says the Rambam, you need to scream, lizok, lizok. And the Rambam goes on Shabbat, you can't scream at all the tragedy, says the Rambam. And then he lists a few cases that you're allowed to scream and even blow the shofar on Shabbat. One of those horrible cases, one of them is, if you have one Jew that's nirda from the oivim, the enemies are chasing him to kill him, one Jew, you're allowed to be mechalel Shabbat and blow the shofar. And you're allowed to scream and cry on Shabbat, says the Rambam. Look it up, Perek Al v'Chotaniot. One Jew is being run after by enemies to kill him, you're allowed to scream even on Shabbat. No more Onek Shabbat, blow the shofar. It's an emergency, says the Rambam. We're talking about 200 hostages right now. It's not normal, Abutai. It's not normal. Our job right now is clear. The Torah is always clear, never leaves us hanging. What is our response to such a tragedy? Scream, scream and scream. Lizok, lizok, lizok. Life cannot go on as usual. The Rambam writes over there in Chal Aleph, he goes on. And he says, whoever says on such tragedies, Kacho minhago shel olam, this is the ways of the world. It's called politics. Hamas wins, Israel wins. Hamas loses, Israel loses. Biden is president, so we thought it's going to be worse. It ends up being now it's actually being better. We thought this, we thought that. Person starts talking politics and politics and politics. A person, says the Rambam, who says, Kachi minhago shel, this is the way where there's always wars, there's always casualties. A person who says that when a tragedy happens to the Jewish people, says the Rambam, not me, and he writes it, it's called an achzar, a cruel person. A person who hears such tragedies and doesn't scream at Hashem is an achzar, he's a cruel person. That's terrifying words. Talk about the Rambam. That's terrifying, where every word is calculated. We spent weeks in yeshiva trying to understand one halakha from the Rambam, what he meant. Over here the Rambam writes what he holds 100% clearly. Our response to what's going on is lizok, and life cannot go on as usual. It cannot.